thank you guys so much for chatting today. I have to say, I'm really excited to talk to you. And I don't know if the publicist even prepped you on this, but in a weird turn of events, I'm a entertainment journalist, but I'm also, as it happens, a paranormal journalist and researcher, and I work on a couple ghosty TV shows. So chatting with you guys, especially chatting with you on the Day of the Dead while I'm actually at a shoot in a supposedly haunted location, makes this for an extra treat. Uh, so let me begin and just say I really enjoyed the film. I found it to be really quite beautiful, and I like that we're talking about ghosts, but not ghosts. It's, about giving up the ghosts, about letting go, and it's not last exit, it's next exit. Mali, why don't you start and tell me a little bit about just your theory on ghosts and how that tied into this story?
Yeah, I think I just wanted to create a world that actually, I believe in ghosts. I believed in ghosts since I was a little kid. I've had experiences with ghosts. I believe that it is us humans here on Earth that are keeping ghosts here because, or entities here because we can't let go of things, or there is unfinished business. I believe in all of that. For me, I think this was also looking into what happens, after life and in death, and not being able, reading the Bible, reading anything that I could, and religion wasn't making sense to me. And so I just wanted to make a world in which it did make sense. And I just wanted to get that out of the way at the start, because I feel like when you just shift one reality in life that we all experience, there's changes and ripple effects throughout everybody. Some people have big experiences, some people don't. Some people all of a sudden are open to things and can see things. Others don't change their way at all. I mean, we've definitely seen this with COVID. And I think that's when my pitch for this movie suddenly went from everybody not believing me to, oh yeah, that is what would happen. So for me, that was really the reason why I wanted to start. But and just the world that I wanted to create, but it was always about these two characters, and it was always a character study that I was most interested in making. So it was creating a world that I wanted to live in, and then watching these two characters kind of play in it.
So in a way, were you researching this topic even before the movie was a thing, by, you said, reading all these religious texts?
I read, yes. And look, I grew up in a haunted house. And like I said, there was a ghost that I talked to my whole childhood. Now, whether that be a ghost or an imaginary friend or a guardian angel or whatever, I mean, that's the thing, is that what is it, especially when you're a kid and you need friends and you need somebody to talk to, you can create things. And like I said, I think ghosts are things that kind of are something that us humans need. So that's it. It was studied, but it was also very much based on my own personal experience.
Yeah. What do you think a ghost is?
I mean, I think that it is literally a piece of ourselves that is not able to be seen in this world, that we can pass on. It's another realm that is close to ours. And it is a piece of ourselves that goes on without us, without this body that is such a pain in the ass to carry around.
Yeah. Rahul,
What do you
what do I think? I mean, I don't think
You're the
it's
ghost hunter.
I mean, to my knowledge, I mean, I say this a lot when I do like Comic Cons and speaking engagements. To my knowledge, no one has come back from the other side and say, here's the handbook for the recently deceased. And I tend to think that, I don't know, maybe a ghost is an echo in time. Maybe it's someone that has some leftover business to do. Maybe it's someone watching over a loved one. Maybe it's someone that's existing in their own timeline and we somehow overlap, and it's more science fiction than paranormal. I don't know. Maybe it's all of those things together.
All of the above, I think. And I don't
Yeah.
think that time exists on the other side. That is the one big thing.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of, yeah, it's weird how, like, maybe if whatever's happening on the other side, maybe time is not existing in the same way for them as we perceive it. Rahul, what do you think a ghost is?
Oh, this is the wrong room for me. I don't believe in anything. I'm a stone cold atheist. None of it, all of it, nonsense.
Aliens.
Aliens, sure, yeah. Mathematically, I believe in aliens. But in terms of the supernatural, no, nothing. Absolutely nothing.
And I don't think it's the wrong room for you. I mean, I like that, and I love talking to people that are skeptical or don't have those kinds of beliefs as well, because I find that fascinating. And honestly, from a global perspective, sometimes I feel like we could do with a lot less religion. But with that said, though, with your projects, between this film and working on the Flanagan stuff, and I guess even tangentially connected to like something like iZombie, when you're working on this kind of genre stuff, has it made you reflect at all on your philosophies about what's out there?
No, it's just work. Like, I don't believe in zombies or Supergirl. It's just kind of fallen into it, really. Like, I Zombie was my first gig, and then that went for 5 years, and then the first job I got outside of iZombie was Bly Manor, which led to Mass, which led to Next Exit, which led to the fall of the House of Usher. So and then Ghostbusters. So it's not it's not like particularly with horror, and Marley knows this. It's not my genre, really. Even as a fan, I would dabble in like horror video games, but that was more being a gamer that needed to play everything rather than a fan of the genre. But through this experience, with these projects, I've definitely started to broaden my horizons, and like decided off my own volition to watch Black Phone the other week. And yeah, so it's more of like it's almost like an athlete not watching the sport. Like, it's crazy that I don't now watch the sport that I play in. So through that, if there's a must-see kind of spooky show or film, I make the effort now to watch. But it hasn't impacted any type of philosophy or anything like that.
I don't know if that's a very, just a side note, I don't know if that's a Clint Eastwood poncho hanging over your gaming chair, but yes, I love that. Well, with that said, aside from the belief, and look, belief is a very strong word. I think there's ideas and theories that I try to have without having strict belief. But why do you think ghost stories continue to exist? What's the purpose of people trading these stories back and forth, and the popularity of this genre, just in the grand scheme of things, from your perspective, Rahul?
Well, I think that the unknown will always interest us, I think. And it appeals to base human things. We do like to be afraid. We like to challenge that. So when you get into the kind of real kind of horror, there's an allure to being scared, to confronting that fear. I think for other people, it gives them hope in where their loved ones are, or it's I think it's a very personal thing. I don't necessarily connect emotionally to that, but what I do connect to, and I think again with Marley, with Next Exit, and with technically with Bly Manor, the idea that the ghost is really trauma that we hang on to, and I relate to that absolutely. I'm someone who's guilt-ridden, and I have demons, and I created my own kind of ghosts that haunt me and give me nightmares. So in that respect, I can identify with that. But like I said, it's I think everyone takes something personal from it.
Right. I like that idea as well, and I think it's very much reflected in the film, Molly, that these ghosts are, it's the past lingering as well. It's it's history trying to be remembered, it's stories, and it's our own trauma kind of following us around. I think that something that really struck me about this film is it's a road trip. It's also a road trip. It's this journey to the other side of America, from one coast to the next coast. Take me through kind of the decision-making process on that, Molly, as far as putting them on the road. Was that very intentional, this kind of pilgrimage from one side to the next?
Absolutely. I I love going on road trips. You know, we just got to go through the Southwest and bring the film back to Tucumcari and Albuquerque and the places that we shot, which I absolutely loved. But there is something about taking the time to drive across the country. I think when you get on a plane, you're trying to get there most of the time as uncomfortably as possible from one place to another. And you arrive and you kind of get through your day. There's something about actually taking the time to process when you're driving and you get to look out the window and you get to see the beauty of the world. And that was a big point of both of these characters finally getting out of the bubbles that they had both been trapped in, either in their minds or physically, or by the means that they had, and seeing the world. There's nothing like driving across the country and seeing the clouds and the skies and the beauty up above, because there's something that makes you feel both very small and insignificant, and allows you to kind of get out of your own way and also understand that there is something important maybe out there that you got to go seek. So that's what I love about a road trip, is kind of the discovery and the time that you get with these characters. And for me, it was also looking at the United States, and intentionally there was always, I wanted a political element, a religious element, a family element, and a spiritual element. And the point is hopefully not to have any leanings towards any way, but just to have discussions about them and to open the door, because oftentimes when you're making big decisions in your life, those are 4 very important elements that might add into that. And I wanted them to have to deal with those in different ways and then ultimately make their own choices. Choices are always very important for me, and the characters both being given a moment in which they get to make choices for their own lives was always very important in the structure. And then the practicality of making them drive across the United States. Originally, it was supposed to be New York all the way, but because of COVID, we started in Kansas City, Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and then LA. And I am still shocked. I still can't believe, Rahul, that you showed up in Kansas. I felt like I was like in Kansas City in like that hotel that like he didn't even fit in. It was like the doors and the showers were all like made for 5'5" people. Oh, and I just like,
Which one was the one? What city had the bathtub in the bedroom?
oh,
Do you
that was
remember I
Kansas
had
City.
that was Kansas, right? It had the bathtub inside the bedroom. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny because we got to fly out randomly. We couldn't fly out on a normal airline, so we had to fly out private in order to keep ourselves completely bubbled. And so we fly out private, so it's this nice jets taking us out there, and then we land, and that's the first motel that we stay in.
Yeah.
And then I think they only got worse as we went.
It's funny because you also, once they hit Route 66, there was something kind of special about that from my perspective, because that is this made or used to be this artery of America called Main Street of America. And weirdly, it in of itself, according to some people, it's had an occult pilgrimage, almost occult backgrounds to it. Was that something you were aware of, or was that just kind of a nice coincidence?
No, it is. And there's also the idea of you drive across the United States and the Route 66 is a ghost town now. I mean, literally, it is a town that was left behind. It got even worse during COVID. From the time that I scouted to the time when we shot, we went back to places that had actual cities before, and they were deserted. The motels weren't even boarded up. The doors were just open. There was no homeless people there because they all had to leave. The supermarkets had all been raided like a long time ago. It looked like a zombie apocalypse, but it was just people had to leave. There was no food left. There was no resources left. And I think also for me, kind of being, a coaster and living in LA my whole life and all the rest of it, to get out of that and also kind of get to experience America and what people are going through, I thought was really important for the journey. And it was something that we tried to capture in the background and in the feel of the film and as we were crossing the country.
And it's funny because if one day we were to say like, okay, ghosts are real and we have scientific proof of it, and here you go, and drop this kind of bomb, existential bomb on us. Again, the fact that they're on Route 66, that it's a road trip and it's Main Street of America, this is very much an American point of view. Did you consider at all sort of how the rest of the world would react to this news? And what would that be like? And I want to hear from both of you. Yeah.
See, I made references to other places in the world, and I definitely wanted to. I think this was the most I felt like I could tackle in this film with trying to stay with these characters. We have a slight international element with bringing in Rahul, and that element. But for me, I do think the rest of the world would act differently, and I would love to engage in that further. And I do think it's a bigger conversation. It's been very fun to screen it other places and see how they respond, because it is very different. The UK had a different response than some people in the US, but also an interesting one. And I think, I think all perspectives are welcome.
Yeah, Rahul, do you want to add to that?
How would the world react?
Well, yeah. How do you think the world would act? And yes, I mean, coming from sort of the British perspective as well,
Well, I know atheism is on a rise in Europe, right, as opposed to America. And that in itself would mean that I think if you were a religious person, and it would just confirm your beliefs, right? It would play into the idea of life beyond, spirits, things like that. Whereas for us, maybe, or for me, it would really result in a stripping back, not just ghosts, but like a real kind of reassessment of everything you once believed about God and the universe and the Big Bang and why we're here. Whereas right now, I am very comfortable with how I interpret why we're here in the world and the laws and things like that. I think if there was some sort of proof of life after death, it would probably result in a lot of soul searching. It's like finding out that 1 + 1 isn't 2, it's 3, and then trying to re-study maths, I guess.
Yeah, intriguingly, there is that rise of atheism, but there's also a sort of people are kind of divorcing themselves from organized religion. The association with organized religion is on the decrease, but the rise of spirituality and sort of the secular spiritualism is on the rise as well. A lot of that was as a result, we're seeing a lot of that as a result of the global pandemic. Kind of, Molly, I want you to take this, because you don't really take a stand as far as, we don't get into this notion of God, or there's a spiritualist element to it, but not really a religious element. Talk more about that and why you kind of made that choice. And I guess along with that, were there rules that you sort of set up to what this kind of afterlife would look like? This is about 2 living people, but it is also set in this world of the afterlife. So speak to the lack of religion, but also the rules that you may have set in place about this universe.
One of the interesting things about religion is that we've been touring this film around and getting different perspectives, and it's amazing how much I found that this film reaffirms whatever people's previous perspectives already were. So there's been people who are Catholic who come up to me and say, this is actually very Catholic. And there was a Buddhist who came up to me and said, actually, this is very Buddhist. The person who came up to me and said, we were in Tucumcari, who is Native American, and said, actually, this goes back to Native American lore. And so I do think it is a little bit about, what do you want to read off of this film? What do you think it means? And the fact of the matter is, I think the thing that unites us is that we are all haunted by things. We are all working through things, and we all want to believe that there's something else, or would like there to be. And I think that's the thing, when you look at all the different religions, that's kind of the thing that unites a lot of them together. I think because of politics and human beings and everything else, they get corrupted in so many different ways. But when you look at the intention, a lot of it is, how do we handle grief? And that was what I was more interested in tackling than any specific religion, specifically. I don't feel like I am expert enough to handle those conversations, and that's just not the conversation that I really want to have. So it's more of I think what human beings might believe, and hopefully what I want them to take away from it, which is believe whatever you want, but be good to one another and work through your shit. And I think that's more of the metaphor of the movie. And then for the afterlife, yes, there's a lot of rules that went into this, and very specific. And a lot of it actually touches on things that you were saying earlier on. It's all about what we can't process in this world and what we can't leave behind, and our issues here. And really, this film is about what haunts you. But yes, there's a lot of ghost rules. And if I ever got the ability to make a film that was focused more on that, I absolutely would.
It's something I kind of say, as far as like one of my theories about what's out there, is kind of if the kind of ghost you might want to encounter, or the kind of ghost you encounter, is sort of like Luke Skywalker going into the dark side cave on Dagobah. It's whatever you bring with you. And the you know, trauma that you're bringing with you is what you encounter as a ghost. So there might be a bad ghost, there might be a good ghost.
Yeah.
And
also, how do you feel about that ghost? That might affect that ghost.
Yeah. Is this something, this certainly is a work that's quite beautiful work, stands on its own. Is this, but it also could work as a series. And I was immediately thinking of something like The Leftovers. Is this a world that you would want to explore further and explore maybe how other people would respond to this?
You mean the sequel when Rose and Teddy have to drive back to go pick up their dog Stanley, and Dr. Stevenson is upset because they broke out of the system and chases them back, and it's a chase movie?
Mad Max.
Yeah, Mad Max with Dr. Stevenson chasing after you across the country. I could stay in this world with these characters forever. Honestly, even as a writer, I would get into these scenes and I would know what I wanted to stack against them, but they would just talk and they would just speak to me, and they always did, and I always heard their voices, and it was so wonderful to go from that process to bringing it to life. Both of the actors only made the dialogue on the page even better. And could I live in that world forever? And do I think Katie and Rahul are amazing together, and I love this whole dynamic and would work with them forever? Yes. I think that this is probably a standalone piece, though. I don't know that we really need to continue the world of Next Exit, and I got some other stuff I'd love to do. But
Yeah,
I mean, if somebody wants to give me money to do it, I mean, we can make that chase movie.
Hey, I would watch it. I know we're getting the cue to wrap up, but I'll just ask finally. I mean, I definitely, oh gosh, I want to hear so much more about what happened to you in your haunted house. So I want to hear about that. But I guess, what would you do as a ghost? It's a silly question. You have a wide range, do whatever you want. What would you do as a ghost?
I mean, I would definitely fuck with people. I would just, I think that would be my main cause in life. No, I don't know. I don't know that I would actually, with all of this being said, I don't know that I would hang around. I think I kind of want to know what's next.
I kind of want to just travel to places I didn't make my way to, you know.
Oh,
Go to
can we
Fiji.
fly? Is flying possible? You're not trapped in a house? Oh, that would be great.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's rules. You can do whatever you want.
Oh yeah, Fiji. Yeah, that'd be great. A travel the world.
Yeah.
Travel
Rahul, what
stars.
would you do?
I'd probably just check in with my loved ones constantly. I wouldn't haunt them. I think I'd probably have a hard time letting go and want to see my nephew grow up and stuff. So I'd probably just do that.
That's sweet.
Hmm.
Such a better person than I am.
I know that's the poignant response compared to my just wanting to travel around. I like that. Well, you know, I just, again, I want to say that this is a really beautiful film, and it really is. It's not about ghosts. It's about the living and how we deal with our traumas. And it really spoke to me personally. I enjoyed it greatly. Rahul, your performance was incredible. And your co-star Katie, you guys really just knocked it out of the park.
Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Aaron.
Well, thank you guys for your time. I know we got to go, but best of luck with everything, and look forward to speaking with you again in the future.
Good luck ghost hunting.
Take care.
Bye.